Hello, everyone, and welcome to the April 1st meeting of our localization subproject. Let me post our agenda in the chat. So if you'd like to follow along, you can do that. If you have anything you'd like to add, please feel free to do that as well. I'm Abby. I'm one of the localization subproject leads. And I would first like to say, just right before we get started, that this is a CNCF meeting. So we need to, we are beholden to the Code of Conduct for the Kubernetes community, which kind of can boil down to be excellent to each other in your interactions on this call, in the community, in the chat and everything. Just make sure to be kind and be excellent to one another. So we do not have too much on our agenda for right now, but I'd like to start by saying if there's anybody new on the call who would like to unmute themselves and chat, either introduce themselves on the call or just through chat if that's more comfortable for you.
Hi everyone, my name is Arvind and I am a new contributor here. I just heard about the Kubernetes community and I attended a few meetups about it, about the cloud native community as a whole. And I really liked it and I'm interested in learning more about Kubernetes, and hence I wanted to join in here. I also had a PR raised in the localization group. So I thought this meeting would be beneficial and I wanted to join. Thank you.
Welcome. It's so exciting that you found your way here. Thank you for contributing a PR. Is there a language that you're particularly interested in?
Yes, it is. It's Hindi.
Okay, great. Yeah, so this meeting is focused on helping all of the localizations and all of the processes that could come up and how we can share information. And if anyone has a particular question from their language and they want to chat about it as a group, that's what our kind of goal is. I am not sure if the Hindi group has their own language meeting, specific meeting that happens, but that might be something to figure out if you're in the Slack channel for the Hindi language as well. If you have more specific questions about that language and how they work, that's a good place to ask. But I'm so glad that you're here, and we can get started on our agenda. Let me see what it is. Let me figure out if I can share. All right, can you see the meeting agenda? Okay, great. So let's go down to the meeting. Yeah, so the first item is from me, and that is that Divya has created a discussion to talk about streamlining our processes. Nothing here is really, I don't think anything here is really outrageous, but it's basically a way for our own group to set up, have a little more streamlined processes and have a little more autonomy for the leads to make more decisions and to create more events for people. I think the biggest change would be starting to use our email. We do have a localization specific email address that is pretty unused at the moment. But I think the recommendation here is to move localization specific conversations and permissions for calendar invites or whatever, what have you, move that over into our own email address so that we'd be able to do a little bit more. Like I said, certain teams have their own language specific meetings, and we'd be able to help organize that so they are on an official meeting, so they're more easily discovered by people in the community, so they'd be on an actual calendar that gets published somewhere. So if you have thoughts on that, please add in your thoughts on the discussion. But Soko, I know that's one thing I'd really value your feedback on as well, because you would be someone as a lead as well to this would affect a lot of things that we kind of work on. So I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts or just on the discussion. Did anyone have any points they wanted to touch on with that? We can kind of move on.
Yeah, Abby, actually I couldn't pay attention to this localization sub project and any other open source that I involved with. since I'm in a personal circumstance. But I'm trying to follow all discussions, and this one is very high priority to me. So I will share my thoughts soon. And I think most of all, we need to get proper proper permission on us so that we can quickly support new developing localization teams such as Arabic and Bengali. So I think it is very important to, and time is we need to quickly update the permission for the suspect subject. And I will share my thoughts on that. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. I agree. And I no rush. I know you're just getting back. So just whenever you have time. But yeah, I think it would be helpful for us to have the right permissions, be able to help people a little bit more fast, a little more quickly. So I can move on to the next item, which is old localization PRs. I'm not sure who added this. So I
Yeah,
just hopefully
actually,
maybe
I edit, and I saw this mention from last localization subproject meeting, and looks like there are many old localization PRs, and as we decided in this localization subproject meeting, we agreed to close some inactive localization PRs, and I'm going to, and maybe Abby also going to apply our decisions to those PRs. So I hope to say this message. So those PRs can be closed according to our decision.
Okay, so you're saying going through the old PRs, and if it hasn't really been updated in about 3 months, then we'll just start closing PRs. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that sounds fair to me, just to sort of clean up on the issues. I'm not sure what the automation is that will close those PRs, like because there is automation in the repo, but I don't know how that bot works. But I do think it's important that we also communicate this in the Slack channels before we take any action. So I'm not sure if you're planning on doing that, but just to post a message in Slack and make sure that people are aware that we are planning to do this. And so they can maybe just know that it's happening. I think that sounds reasonable to me, to kind of push people a little bit. I know that things happen in the community that you have to step away and maybe things don't, fall off your list. But it might help people to realize that things have gotten a little stale, to come back to it. So does anyone have any other thoughts there? I think this sounds good to me, but I'd be open to hearing other thoughts.
Yeah,
Okay.
this decision is already made in several meetings ago, so we
Okay.
need to apply this group to current outstanding PRs.
Okay, cool. I don't particularly remember, and that's just on me. So definitely agree. Let me know how I can help.
Yeah, sure. And we agreed to put sub-project decision to the top of this document, so you can check the in the first page. We can check, and others can also check decisions made by sub-project meeting.
Okay.
And next item also I put myself, and next item is about there are some members of deaf and hard of hearing working group in CNCF Tech contribute the strategy. Ray, one of SIG lead, also got contact from this working group, and some members might interested in our localization sub project. And I also personally got some interest from this group. So maybe we try to get people more here and make them inclusive and get any contribution from them as well. So maybe we need next step for this. So I thought it is a discussion issue here. So by myself, I have a contact person to this group. So maybe I can try to what is their interest point and what is their obstacle to join or contribute to SIGDOC's localization project. So is there any other comment or good ideas to make the group involved in this project?
I don't specifically have any my ideas right now, but I do think it's really great that this was raised and that we can make our group more inclusive, because I would love to have more people join in. If you're able, yes, if you're able to contact and reach out to people from that group to see what we need to do differently in our Zooms and in our recordings or whatever we're doing on the meetings to make it more accessible for folks. I would love to hear it and try to implement it as much as possible. I do hope that there are resources within the CNCF that they can provide or promote in some way. But yeah, I'm interested in hearing what the things to change and do are for them.
Okay, I will try to join their meeting or their channel, or what is their interest and what is their obstacle to contributing to Kubernetes SIGDOCs. Okay, I guess we can move on to next items.
I'm sorry, can I just jump in? I was just remembering at Red Hat we have members of the documentation team who are in the deaf and hard of hearing community. The most important thing they described was the most vital improvements that they asked for were to have live transcripts of meetings and to provide any supporting materials such as slide decks or documentation that would be discussed beforehand. So yeah, those are two possible opportunities for us.
Yeah, thanks for the comment. And maybe we need to find out what is their requirement, and maybe we probably need some tools to help them as well, right? Okay, thanks. Okay, I guess we can move on. I put the Arabic and Bengali localization progress here, and yeah, the issue I'll be opened is about the checking progress of Arabic localization. For your information, Arabic localization has been just started and got members and adding PRs to localize their the languages, and I opened this issue, but I honestly couldn't follow fully, and I listed this issue to follow up and to see others information regarding the Arabic here. And the last comment in this issue is about nominating approvers and reviewers from the Arabic team. And I think their suggestions are rational and acceptable, but I'm not sure what is the current status. I saw one of them are having the approval, Arabic approval permission, and one of them has tried to get new membership for to be a reviewer here. Avi, do you know what is the status of Arabic? Could you
Yeah,
share?
so they have been opening up a lot of PRs, and they've been asking a few questions in their Slack channel. I'm trying to help them get through the processes of getting folks. The first hurdle is getting org membership. So they've had a few folks get org membership, and then the next step is getting the PRs open to add them to reviewers and approvers. And they did make a few of those PRs. One of those PRs, I'm not sure if it's linked on here, but they did have someone in the owner's file. There was an issue because there's a couple of places that you need to update the owner's file. So it's the owner's file that lists out the names of the people on the reviewers and approvers list. And then there's also another file that lists the teams that the bot reads. So it's not, I don't know if it's, I have to follow up with them. I think they're still having an issue of getting the bot to recognize the Arabic team as a team of people to use for reviewers and approvers. But they have made progress on getting people onto the list of reviewers and approvers to get themselves up to speed, so they're not blocked by having people outside of the team review issues. So I have to follow up with them, but I know last week or the week before they were working through some of those issues, and they do have their own meeting on Thursdays or Wednesdays, I believe. They've been having they've been pretty active. From what I can tell. I do need to follow up and make sure they're getting, they're not blocked by anything, but they've been pretty good about reaching out when they have questions. Is that sort of what you were looking for?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for your information, and I try to follow up again, and that one is about the nomination part, and I try to find what is the current blocking issues and that we can help to Arabic team. Okay, I also noticed that including the Arabic and Bengali, their PRs are not tested by Netlify build, and there's no preview for Netlify for their development branches. I think this requires to check their PR are valid or not. So that point is important thing that we can support and make their work reliable. So I'm taking those two points, the Netlify field and the permission aspect. So that's all from my side regarding those issues here.
Yes, I am not sure that's why I just checked on that issue because I wanted to see if I could see what you were saying, how they're not getting the Netlify test. I'm not sure why that is. I'm not sure if that's always been the case before a site is actually live. That it's maybe we just need to include their branch name as a deploy preview. I'm not sure how that all works, but there should definitely be a thing that is helpful. It is helpful to see the actual live version of the site, so we should probably definitely get that up for them.
Yeah, some SIG-docs lead can set up Netlify to the development branches. So some of them can, but I cannot here. But in case of a Korean localization development branch, I have a permission. I got that permission 4 years ago. But these days, permission rule has been changed, I guess. So I think we should request it to the some SIG-docs lead, including tech lead.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So with that, we have reached the end of our agenda. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to raise or any questions that they've had? Please feel free to reach out.
Abby, I hope I have a question. So I saw there were lots of discussions regarding the adopting translation tools or the AI-based translation platforms services. Do you know what is the current status?
Yes, thank you so much for asking, because that is my one last thing that I forgot to put on the agenda. So yes, the conversations have started up around using translation tooling to help do translations more quickly. This is not the right issue. We have a discussion about using tooling for Kubernetes localizations, and I believe there is where it is right now is we are looking to create an issue that will outline the testing requirements. So we have people who are really interested in using them, particularly from the Ukrainian localization. And they have experience using these tools outside of Kubernetes, and they think it will help make it easier to do the translation work and track files using these tools like Crowdin or Transifax. So the ask from SIG-docs and within the localization subproject is to actually do some public, within the community testing of these tools, so we can figure out what the requirements are and how effective they'd actually be, and then what are the long-term maintenance requirements for supporting these tools and supporting the work that would be done using something like Crowdin connected into our repo. And then I don't really know the whole workflow, which is what we would ask folks to sort of outline and come up with what it would look like if we implemented these tools. I'm trying to find the most recent. So this is where it is sort of left off. We talked about it more in detail in the last meeting. I took on the action item to create issues, which unfortunately I wasn't able to get to. But the next step is to kind of create issues that outlines what we'd like to have tested, and then find folks within the community to actually do the testing and to report back their findings. So it's just something we need more information about. I know, like I said, people are very passionate about it, and they think it can provide useful help for the teams. But I think that there just hasn't been enough evidence to make a decision, yes or no, of whether or not they'd actually be worth the effort of implementing. So I think that's the phase we're sort of at, is trying to find evidence and people interested in creating a case to highlight why it would be beneficial, or why maybe it wouldn't be beneficial if they did the testing and it's not maybe worth the effort. I myself am not familiar with the tools, which is kind of a blocker to kind of understand where we're at. But that's sort of the, in a nutshell, where the conversation has led, kind of gotten to. There was definitely a lot of conversations about it at the end of February. And like I said, the people on the Ukrainian team are very passionate about implementing these tools. We just need to figure out if it's the right thing to do for the community. And Ralph, I see you have your hand raised.
Well, wouldn't it make more sense to conduct a test to get data to make that case rather than make the case in advance of the test? It doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at, is to do the testing to then make the case of whether or not it is worth it to the community. Sorry, I must have misspoke. Yeah, so the goal is sort of to set up an outline of what testing should look like, and then have people perform the testing to then create sort of an outcome, which would be whether or not we should actually implement these tools or should not implement these tools, whatever the finding is. But that's the place we're at. Is the next step is finding volunteers to do the testing, and then doing the testing and figuring out what it would what it should do, and if it is worth the investment. Yeah.
Has anyone gotten involved in creating that testing plan or proposal so far?
I have worked just myself on trying to put that together. It hasn't gotten to a point where it's kind of worth it to make an issue, but I know that I'm being a little bit slower about it. So if there's something that you would like to help with, I definitely would love to chat about it. I'm not trying to intentionally be a blocker.
Yeah.
I just didn't quite get the time to put it together. But yeah, so it's sort of where we're at, and that is kind of a big piece to take on doing the testing for people who are willing to do it from my perspective. So I want to make sure it's makes sense what we're asking people to do before I ask for people to just sign on to do an unending top pile of testing. I want to make sure that we really know what we want to test. But yeah, always there's, like I said, there's this issue. So if you have thoughts on this, it's nothing has been really finalized. So
Yeah. So what I'd like to get involved in, I had done I'd used some similar software and platforms for a localization on a completely different project. I wonder if I could get involved, and would it make sense for us to have a side meeting and then report back, or how would you like to proceed?
that's a good question. I think going forward, like when we get to a part we have volunteers who are willing to work on this, I think it would make sense to have a separate meeting to kind of go over the things, and not just wait, for a localization meeting. So I think it would make sense to do at least a kickoff meeting, to kind of organize and figure out the details. So yes, for sure.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for being your interest.
Sure. And should I reach out to you on Slack? Would that be the best channel for us to start communicating?
Yeah, maybe for now, just so we have a more out of Slack record of it, if you want to put on this discussion that you'd be interested in helping to work on this, just to kind of keep it a little more out.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Out there. So, I'm trying not to be a big blocker on this, but I know
No.
things have gotten a little bit wonky. There was KubeCon in the middle of March, which was unexpected because it is not normally that early. So it kind of threw a loop through getting through things done. Soko, I know you're the one who raised this question, so I just wanted to make sure that do you have any questions or follow up? I know there's a lot to unpack in these conversations. So
yeah, I actually tried to follow the current status, and I got your message, and my perspective on this issue is currently we have many localization teams who are very active and maintaining their work nicely within this GitHub and Git-based localization workflow. They have their own ways, and we need to try to incorporate other ways that the current ways Azure, and I also need to try this one, and whether this one is also effective to existing teams, or this approach is not enough to change too many things to existing workflow. So I will try to follow.
Hello, Seoho. Let me interrupt a little bit. As we told me and Maxim a year ago when we started this topic, as we returned to it last meeting, if some teams have their habits and their ways with working with last just clear Git, they don't need to make any extra steps if we add in translation localization platforms. Those platforms are giving extra possibilities for those people who know how to work with them, who are used to work with them. But if you are not used, you could still work the old way as long as our general source of trust, our general storage is Git, and as a team and a lot of other folks stated it a lot of times, we will not switch main storage from Git anywhere else. So there is no any losses anyway.
Yeah,
and hello everyone, just was able to catch up.
Yeah, I understand your point, surely, and adopting this kind of tool or platform will enhance the performance of localization itself. I agree, surely. But we have another aspect on using this GitHub workflow for localization. With this GitHub workflow, GitHub and Git-based localization workflow helps incorporating, making new contributors involved in this Kubernetes community itself. Also, many contributors in this localization project, as well as SIG project, could go to another repository inside Kubernetes, and practicing this GitHub-based workflow are very important for them. So this way is very inclusive way. I think it is also one of very inclusive way to invite many new contributors. So I think there are pros and cons using current workflow, and many teams are developing their own tools to make deep checking the outdated content and current status, even though they don't apply the new or good translation platforms. They have their own ways, and I think their ways also should be included in our community, as well as the new platform also. So I agree both opinions, and I surely agree your opinions as well. So we try to incorporate those tools and existing one as well. So that's why we are doing this test and try to see what how this will helpful to current and future localization workflow and environment. So I'd like to say thanks to Brian team as well to bring this topic and taking this test and try to implement new ideas here. So I hope to say we are not old-fashioned working group. We try to make other ways inclusive. That's my opinion on this kind of subject.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think that's something valuable that we do have within the community. We have a lot of people who are students or new to using Git, and it's sort of a way for them to learn some of these skills before they move into other areas of Kubernetes or in their own careers. I think that is valuable, and we've had a lot of people have success doing localization in the current way and learning the tools. Even though it might be a little more clunky for just the output of just translation. But I still think that is a valuable way that I think some people have learned a lot. So I don't want to, I don't want to implement these tools and lose all the works that people have done. So if there is a way to do it, like we were mentioning, it won't necessarily change the way people are doing it now, but just be an extra tool. I think that is great. So people can kind of choose how they want to do it. But again, I think that is a good example of clarification that needs to happen. And by having a little more resources and more definitive ways of how it would actually work and what the workflows would look like to them to have more of this evidence done through the testing to show people within other localization teams how it can help them and how it maybe won't change or what things will need to change by implementing them. I think that's really important where we're at right now. Yes. Does anyone have any other thoughts on this topic? Right. Yeah.
Yes, small question, Abby. I just didn't hear from you. I tried to ping you via Slack, but something went wrong, whatever. Last time we discussed that we will try to gather methods and tools that different localization teams are using in their workflows. Do we have some progress about it? Seoho he's mentioning that some of Korean teams using extra steps, extra workflows, and we are not aware of about those. Just reminded me that it was also on the table,
Yeah, so not as much progress as I would have liked to report for this meeting. Just, things came up and I did see your message, but I just was off. So I wasn't able to get back to you there. So I think we're still in the place of setting up a framework of what we would want to test. And I think it's Crowdin is the one that we're a little bit leaning more towards to have people test. And setting it up so people understand what needs to be tested and getting the volunteers to do the testing. It's sort of kind of the place we're still at. So I don't have a real update for you on that other than it's still something we're planning on doing because I think it is valuable to at least test them out and have evidence for the community to decide whether or not they want to choose to adopt the tools. But we're still not a lot of progress from last meeting. Yeah.
Thank you, got it. Yeah, life is not always smooth and chill, as we all will know. Just wanted to check, while I have few last days before joining forces, if I could do something.
Yeah, thank you. I know also there's some following up to do with the CNCF on just reminding them about some the
I was planning
easy
to drop
CLA
this,
issue. Yeah,
I was planning to drop the letter to them yesterday, but with all the stuff on my head, just forgot about it. So I will drop it on them extra time. And let me remind you, please, someone, just in case, make notes about this. Robert returned to us about this conversation that CNCF should have opinion maybe about not being so strict with all those extra tools and is a CLA and blah, 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 blah. Their response was, guys, we don't want to have everything centralized. Kubernetes and Kubernetes SIG docs are have enough authority to decide by themselves how you want to operate all this stuff, and not just always wait what NCF is saying and thinking, and just be more proactive. I just want that, you know, if someone missed this last time, to remind us, it could be, you know, a little bit life changer.
Mhm. Yeah, that's interesting to know. I don't know all that, and I don't know how SIG docs would feel about that, but I do know we have a meeting tomorrow, so maybe if there is something you want to chat about or have it brought up in that meeting, if you want to share it in the SIG docs channel or in the SIG docs localization channel, we can talk about it more if that's a little, or just that response. I'm just not sure where Robert had that response in the community. I do know that there was some pending conversations.
What hour? On what hour tomorrow?
That's a good question. It is 1:30 Eastern time, so it might be pretty late your time. I don't know what
Late
that
is
is in
good
YouTube.
because if it would be same time as now, I would be at my dentist. So pretty late is much chances that I will be available.
Okay, yeah, if there has been further, I know because of KubeCon, there wasn't as much effort to get into there wasn't as much time or resources to get into these conversations because people were doing stuff for KubeCon, but I know that happened. So hopefully people have more time to chat about it or think about it. But yeah, if there is something else about the CLA you want to chat about, I'd recommend bringing it to the rest of the SIG docs group because they have more opinions and more knowledge about it than I do.
Okay, got it. So drop this letter Robert asked me about. How much? 2 months ago, I think already. And return to it tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone have any more thoughts on this topic? Oh, Rob.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention I generated a draft test plan and dropped it in the issue at the bottom there. Pretty straightforward. And yeah, thank you for sharing that. So that's pretty much how we would progress in terms of doing this. And then if we want, you know, if this draft testing plan meets everyone's needs, we can elaborate on each of the steps and begin carrying them out. Probably would be good to form a working group around this.
Yes, that's if not an official working group plan, definitely some sort of group who meets does their own thing and reports back to us. I think for sure. I'm just trying to look at this. Yeah, I think that all sounds good. We just need to. The next step is finding volunteers and actually creating issues. And I can follow up a little bit more in the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah, let me clarify for a second. The basic plan looks good enough. It's not problem, it's complication. Yeah, all of the platforms we looked at have their free tier for testing. Yeah, and it's not a big problem to go with a free tier for testing. We will have something like a month on every platform. In some cases, 2-3 weeks, which is also good enough. The problem is to gather all volunteers who want to participate in the tests, to not recreate those test platforms again and again and again. So the main problem is to spread the word as wide as possible to get all people on the board. This is the main starting point at the moment.
Yeah, I think the way to do that is to set a begin date, to have a kickoff meeting, to establish a start testing date, and everyone who's ready to test is involved. And then after 3 weeks, the test ends and we gather our feedback and demonstrate how it worked or didn't work.
Actually, Abby, how much active translating communities we have at the moment? I mean, will it be really terrible to go person by person through all of them on Slack or something like that to forget an answer? You know, something like we drop in 2 teams waiting for days. They respond good. They no response whatever they didn't want to try. So something like that, you know, to try
Yeah.
at least a little bit, a little bit fasten up everything.
Yeah, so we have about 14 active teams, or 14 like live localizations, and they'll have their own Slack channel, and then we have the main channel for the localization sub project. So yeah, it just
And-
comes down to posting messages and reaching out and seeing if we get a response.
Yeah, yeah.
So we have already at least 2 communities, localization communities, who are interested to try. So 12 left to go.
Yes. So thank you all for this conversation around this topic. It'd be really interesting to see what folks in the community have come out of this testing. I'm very curious to see if this tool works and will be helpful for folks. Did we have anything else on this topic or any other topic that people might want to chat about before? We're coming up a little bit on time. Okay, not seeing anybody jumping in. So thank you all for attending, and we had a really great conversation, and for signing on and not having too much of an agenda, we filled the whole hour. So thank you all for joining. And I will definitely be following up about the translation toolings within Slack. And hopefully we can get something going in the month of April. For the next meeting, we can kind of report on it a little bit. And please reach out in our localization Slack channel if you have questions, and I look forward to seeing you all online. All right.